They want to turn us into a story.
Then they're about to hear no.
Would you like an arm?
You're asking?
Wait, car turning right.
Tell me when it's clear.
Clear.
Why are you telling me this?
Because you understood what everyone else missed. I never agreed to this.
Neither did I. I won't let them sell what happened.
Then tell them what they got wrong.
Don't grab her. Ask her. Marcus Reed didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The words were calm enough to disappear beneath the horns, engines, and hurried footsteps filling the downtown intersection. But the man beside the curb heard them. So did the woman with the white cane. It was 7:42 on a Tuesday morning, the kind of morning when everyone seemed to be late for something. Office workers hurried toward glass towers with coffee cups in hand. A city bus sighed against the curb. The pedestrian signal chirped beneath the restless noise of traffic. And Claire Whitmore stood perfectly still at the corner, one hand wrapped around the handle of her cane, listening for the crossing signal. She had been there less than a minute, long enough for 3 people to pass around her, long enough for someone to ask if she needed help without waiting for an answer, long enough for another stranger to reach toward her arm as though blindness had somehow erased her right to choose. Marcus had noticed from 20 feet away. He was 30, tall and athletic, dressed in a fitted charcoal t-shirt beneath an old work jacket and faded jeans. His daughter Sophie walked beside him, her purple backpack bouncing against her shoulders as she tried to keep pace. "Daddy, we're going to be late." Marcus glanced at the time on his phone. She was right. School started in 18 minutes. His shift started 35 minutes after that, 6 miles across town. He slipped the phone back into his pocket. Then he saw the stranger reaching for Claire again. "Don't grab her," Marcus said. "Ask her." The stranger hesitated, muttered something under his breath, then disappeared into the crowd. Marcus didn't watch him leave. His attention settled on Claire. She was 26, fair-skinned, with platinum blonde hair falling in soft waves over the shoulders of an elegant navy dress. Dark glasses covered her bright blue eyes. Her posture was straight, composed, almost practiced. Yet beneath the traffic noise, Marcus noticed the smallest thing. Her cane had stopped moving. Not fear, calculation. She was listening, mapping the intersection through sound. Marcus stayed several feet away. "Mom?" Claire turned slightly toward his voice. "Would you like an arm?" There was a pause. Not long. Just long enough for Marcus to understand that she was deciding whether to trust a voice she had never heard before. "You're asking," she said. Marcus almost smiled. "Figured you should get a vote." Something changed in her expression. Barely. The tension around her mouth softened. "Yes," she said. "An arm will be helpful." Marcus stepped closer, stopping beside her rather than in front of her. He bent his elbow and waited. He didn't take her hand. He didn't move her cane. He didn't tell her where to stand. Claire found his arm herself, her fingers resting lightly above his elbow. Sophie watched with the solemn curiosity only a 7-year-old could manage. The crossing signal began chirping. Marcus looked left, then right. "Curb drops about 4 inches, he said. Claire tapped the edge with her cane. "Got it. Crosswalk is straight ahead. About 40 feet. Okay." They stepped forward together. Not rescuer and rescued. Not hero and helpless stranger. Just 2 people crossing a street while a little girl followed close beside them. Halfway across, Claire heard Sophie whisper, "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby. We're definitely going to be late now." Marcus looked down at his daughter, then at the woman holding his arm. "Probably." Claire's lips curved into the beginning of a smile. She didn't know his face yet. She didn't know his job, his neighborhood, or the tired old car waiting 3 blocks away. She only knew one thing about Marcus Reed. In a city full of people rushing past her, he had been the first person that morning who stopped without deciding for her what she needed. Claire noticed the rhythm before anything else. Marcus did not pull her forward when the crossing signal began. He moved only after she moved, matching her pace instead of deciding it for her. One step, then another. Her cane swept lightly across the pavement ahead while her fingers rested against his arm. Around them, the city kept behaving like the city. A delivery truck rumbled somewhere to their left. Shoes struck concrete in quick, uneven patterns. Someone hurried past carrying coffee strong enough for Claire to smell it through the cool morning air. Marcus said, "Slight crack in the pavement ahead." Claire found it with her cane. "Thank you." About 15 feet to the other side. She nodded. Sophie followed close behind, unusually quiet now. Marcus glanced toward the traffic and noticed a sedan waiting to turn right. The driver appeared impatient, creeping forward several inches before stopping again. Marcus slowed. He did not tighten his arm around Claire. He simply said, "Let us wait 1 second." Claire stopped immediately. Car. Turning right. The sedan completed its turn. Marcus listened for the crossing signal, checked the lane again, then said, "Clear now." They continued. Claire felt something strange settle inside her. Not relief exactly. Relief was what people assumed blindness required. This was different. Space. Marcus was giving her enough information to make her own decisions, and somehow that felt rarer than help itself. "You have done this before," she said. "Cross the street?" Marcus asked. Claire smiled. "Help someone who cannot see." "A few times." "You are very specific." "Specific is useful. Most people tell me, careful." Marcus gave a quiet laugh. "Careful about what?" "Exactly." Behind them, Sophie giggled. "My dad explains everything." "Doi?" Marcus asked. "Everything. Even pancakes." Claire turned her face toward the little girl's voice. "Pancakes require explanation?" "Apparently," Sophie said. "There is a correct temperature." "There absolutely is," Marcus replied. Claire laughed then, unexpectedly and without restraint. The sound surprised even her. Marcus looked at her for half a second before turning his attention back toward the sidewalk. There was something warm about that laugh, something that did not belong to the polished distance she carried in her posture. They reached the opposite curb. 4-inch step up, Marcus said. Claire located it and stepped onto the sidewalk. Her fingers remained on his arm for 1 extra second before she released him. "Thank you, Marcus." He had not remembered telling her his name. Then Sophie solved the mystery. "I said it when I told you we were late, Daddy." Marcus shook his head. "Of course you did." Claire folded both hands over the handle of her cane. "And Sophie, apparently." "That is me," Sophie said proudly. A phone began vibrating inside Claire's purse. Once, twice, then again. She ignored it. Marcus noticed, but said nothing. Across the street, the signal changed and another crowd began moving. Claire tilted her head. "You really are late, are you not?" Marcus checked the time. "We have had better mornings." "I am sorry." "Do not be. You stopped because of me." Marcus looked down at Sophie. The little girl was watching him, waiting for the answer too. "Being late costs us a few minutes," he said. "Leaving somebody alone can cost them more." Claire went still. Marcus did not know that people had spent years surrounding her while somehow leaving her alone. He did not know about the rooms where everyone spoke for her, the meetings where people confused accommodation with permission, or the quiet apartment where silence sometimes felt larger than the rooms themselves. He had simply said what he believed. Sophie tugged gently at his jacket. "Daddy." "Right." "School." Claire smiled again. "Go." Marcus nodded. "Have a good morning, ma'am." "Claire." He paused. "Have a good morning, Claire." Then he and Sophie disappeared into the stream of footsteps, leaving Claire beside the intersection, listening until she could no longer distinguish his voice from the city. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Black Dad Destiny. Every day, we bring you touching stories, emotional love stories, and unforgettable journeys inspired by the moments that change people's lives forever. Marcus and Sophie made it to Hawthorne Elementary with 4 minutes to spare, though Sophie announced their arrival as if they had survived a cross-country race. "See, Daddy, we are not late." Marcus bent slightly to straighten one strap of her purple backpack. "That depends on whether your teacher agrees with your definition of time." Sophie grinned. Around them, parents moved through the morning drop-off, car doors closing, children calling goodbye, teachers greeting students beneath the red brick entrance. Sophie started toward the doors, then stopped. "Daddy." Marcus looked up. "Yeah, baby." Why did that lady need your arm if she had that stick? Marcus considered the question. He never rushed Sophie's questions, not even when he was rushing everywhere else. Her cane helps her understand what is around her, he said. My arm just gave her some extra information. Sophie thought about that. So you did not lead her? Not exactly. She led herself? Marcus smiled. That is a better way to say it. Sophie nodded, as if filing the answer somewhere important. Then she glanced toward the school doors before looking back at him. She sounded nice. She did. And pretty. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You were studying her? I have eyes, Daddy. He laughed despite himself. Go to class. Sophie hugged him quickly and ran inside. Marcus watched until the doors closed behind her. Only then did he check the time. His smile disappeared. 27 minutes. 6 miles. Morning traffic. He walked quickly toward the parking garage where his 12-year-old Ford waited, coffee from dawn still sitting cold in the cup holder. By the time he reached Westbridge Property Services, the digital clock on the dashboard read 8:34. For minutes late. For minutes was not much in most places. At Westbridge, for minutes had paperwork attached to it. His supervisor, Daniel Price, stood near the maintenance desk holding a clipboard. Read. Marcus removed his work jacket and reached for the Navy maintenance shirt hanging in his locker. Morning, Daniel. 8:30 means 8:30. I know. Daniel glanced at the clock. Everything all right? Marcus could have explained. He could have described Claire, the intersection, the impatient crowd, the white cane. It would have been true. It might even have earned him sympathy. Instead, Marcus buttoned his uniform shirt. I am late. That is on me. Daniel studied him for a moment. You want me to mark it as personal delay? That works. You only get 3 before management starts asking questions. Marcus nodded. Understood. No argument. No performance. He picked up his tool bag and headed toward the service elevator. Across town, Claire was having a very different morning. The phone in her purse had stopped vibrating only after her assistant called 6 times. Now Claire sat in the back of a quiet black sedan, while Natalie Brooks read her schedule aloud. 9:15, Accessibility Initiative Review. 10:30, Donor Conference. Noon, lunch with the Whitmore Foundation Board. Claire faced the window, listening to the muted city beyond the glass. Cancel the 9:15. Natalie stopped. You requested that meeting. Move it. To when? Claire was silent. In her mind, she heard Marcus again. Would you like an arm? Not here. Let me help you. Now be careful. A question. Permission before assistance. Such a small distinction. Yet Claire had spent years funding programs supposedly designed for people like her, surrounded by consultants who used words like independence while constantly deciding what independence should look like. Natalie, she said quietly, when we designed the pedestrian assistance program, how many blind people were actually involved? Papers shifted beside her. Several accessibility consultants. That was not my question. Another silence. I would have to check. Claire turned toward her assistant's voice. Check. At Westbridge, Marcus stepped from the elevator onto the 22nd floor and knelt beside a malfunctioning ventilation panel. His phone buzzed once. A message from Sophie, sent through her classroom tablet before lessons began. I told Mia that blind people lead themselves. Marcus stared at the words, then smiled. He typed back carefully. Good. Also, please pay attention to your teacher. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. I could do both. Marcus shook his head and slipped the phone away. Miles across the city, Claire sat perfectly still as Natalie searched through reports. Neither Claire nor Marcus knew it yet, but the 40 seconds they had spent crossing one street had already followed both of them into rooms the other had never seen. By lunchtime, Claire had asked the same question 3 different ways and disliked every answer. How many? She repeated. Natalie sat across from her in the quiet conference room at Whitmore Foundation. Headquarters, a tablet resting in her hands. 2 blind consultants reviewed the final proposal. Claire tilted her head. Reviewed it. How many helped design it? Natalie hesitated. That hesitation answered first. None directly. Claire leaned back. The room smelled faintly of fresh coffee and polished wood. Beyond the windows, downtown traffic moved 30 floors below, but Claire knew the city differently. Engines, footsteps, crosswalk signals. The changing pressure of open space. The small pause before someone decided whether to treat her like a woman or a problem. We built an independence program without letting blind people define independence. Natalie lowered the tablet. We followed industry standards. That might be the problem. Claire reached for her coffee and found it immediately. She knew exactly where everything on the table was. She always did. People often mistook preparation for fragility. She had spent years becoming so organized that strangers rarely noticed how much work independence could require. Yet that morning, Marcus had noticed something else. Choice. Her phone vibrated beside her. She ignored it. Who was he? Natalie asked. Claire frowned. Who? The man from this morning. You have been thinking about him since you got into the car. Claire almost denied it. Instead, she smiled faintly. His name is Marcus. What does he do? I do not know. Where does he live? I do not know. Last name? Claire paused. I do not know that either. Natalie laughed softly. So you know nothing about him. Claire turned toward the sound. I know he asked before helping. The humor left Natalie's voice. Claire folded her hands. That is more than I know about some people I have worked with for 5 years. Across town, Marcus spent his lunch break sitting on the loading dock behind Westbridge with a turkey sandwich in one hand and black coffee in the other. His coworker Jamal Carter dropped onto the concrete step beside him. You look tired. I am tired. Sophie. Sophie is fine. Jamal waited. Marcus took another bite. Then what? Marcus stared across the narrow service alley. Met somebody this morning. Jamal immediately smiled. There. It is. Do not start. I did not say anything. Your face did. Was she pretty? Marcus gave him a look. Jamal lifted both hands. Basic question. Marcus thought about Claire. He had noticed the platinum blonde hair, the elegant dress, the composed way she carried herself. But strangely, those were not the details that stayed with him. She was funny, he said. Jamal blinked. That was not my question. That is my answer. His phone vibrated. A message from Sophie's school reminded parents about Friday's science fair. Marcus sighed. And there goes my lunch break. Jamal glanced at the screen. Science fair. Solar system model. You bought the kit? Marcus looked offended. We are building it. Of course you are. That afternoon, Claire left the foundation earlier than usual. Natalie walked beside her through the lobby, reading tomorrow's appointments. Near the revolving doors, Claire stopped. Natalie, what does Marcus look like? Natalie was silent for a moment. I only saw him from the car. Try. Tall. Black. Maybe 30. Short curly hair. Beard. Athletic build. He was wearing jeans and an old jacket. Claire listened carefully, assembling an image she would never see in the way Natalie did. Did he look tired? Natalie seemed surprised. Actually, yes. Claire smiled. Sophie said he always looks tired after work. Who is Sophie? His daughter. Outside, the afternoon air had turned cooler. Claire unfolded her cane. Before Natalie could offer an arm, Claire smiled. Ask me. Natalie stopped, then understood. Would you like an arm? Claire considered it for a second. Not this time. She stepped forward, cane moving steadily before her. Natalie walked beside her without touching her. For the first time all day, Claire felt the strange weight of that morning become lighter. Marcus had given her less than a minute of his time. Somehow, he had left behind a question that followed her everywhere. How many people believed they were helping when they had never stopped long enough to ask? That evening, Marcus stood at the kitchen table with a foam ball painted blue in one hand and a bottle of white craft paint in the other. Earth has clouds. Sophie insisted. Earth has dinner first, Marcus replied. Their apartment was small but warm, filled with the ordinary evidence of two people building a life together. School papers covered one corner of the refrigerator. A pair of Sophie's sneakers waited beside the door. The washing machine hummed from the narrow utility closet, while a pot of spaghetti sauce simmered on the stove. Marcus had changed out of his maintenance uniform and into a fitted gray t-shirt and jeans. His shoulders carried the fatigue of the day, but his hands remained patient as he helped Sophie paint tiny continents across the foam planet. Daddy, you made South America too big. Marcus studied it. Maybe South America deserves more room. Sophie laughed. That is not how planets work. Then you should have hired a professional. I cannot afford one. Marcus stared at her. You are 7. Exactly. He laughed, and for a few minutes the morning disappeared beneath paint, pasta, and Sophie's running commentary about Saturn. Then she became quiet. Marcus noticed immediately. What? Sophie dipped her brush into blue paint. Do you think Claire got home okay? Marcus paused. I'm sure she did. How do you know? I do not. Sophie looked up. Then why did you say you were sure? Marcus smiled despite himself. That is a very inconvenient question. She returned to painting. I liked her. Marcus did not answer right away. You knew her for 40 seconds. So did you. That stopped him. Sophie smiled without looking up. Across the city, Claire sat alone at a dining table large enough for 12 people. Dinner had been delivered 20 minutes earlier. She had barely touched it. Her apartment was quiet in the expensive way some places were quiet, sealed behind thick windows high above the streets. Her phone rested beside her plate, vibrating every few minutes with messages from board members, donors, and people who always seemed to need something before saying hello. Claire reached for it, then stopped. Instead, she listened. Refrigerator motor. Ervant. A distant siren far below. Silence again. Marcus had not filled silence unnecessarily that morning. He had not asked how long she had been blind. He had not asked what happened. He had not told her she was brave. Claire had heard all 3 from strangers more times than she could count. Somehow, his restraint had felt more personal than curiosity. The next morning at Whitmore Foundation, Claire entered the accessibility review meeting with one instruction. No presentación. Natalie paused beside her. The team prepared 42 slides. Then they can survive without them. Around the table, chairs shifted. Claire placed both hands on a polished surface. I want everyone to answer one question. When was the last time we asked the people using our programs what help they actually wanted? Silence. Someone finally mentioned surveys. Another person mentioned consultants. Claire listened. Then a communications director named Eric Lawson cleared his throat. We could build a campaign around this. Real stories. Emotional engagement. Maybe feature someone helping a blind person in public. Claire's expression changed. Why would the helper be the story? Eric hesitated. Because generosity connects with audiences. And the blind person? The beneficiary? Claire leaned back. There it was. One word. Clean. Professional. Wrong. No, she said. A person is not scenery for somebody else's kindness. The room went still. Natalie said nothing, but Claire could feel her attention sharpen. Claire continued. Start again. This time, invite blind residents before we design anything. By late afternoon, Marcus was replacing a faulty thermostat when Daniel approached him. Read, office before you leave. Marcus looked over. Problem, your late arrival yesterday. Marcus nodded once. I will be there. Daniel walked away. Marcus returned to the thermostat without complaint, but his jaw tightened slightly. For minutes. Rent was due next week. Sophie's science fair needed supplies. The Ford had started making a noise he was pretending not to hear. Kindness did not stop bills from arriving. Still, when his shift ended and he opened his locker, something white slipped from a pocket of his old jacket and landed near his boot. Marcus bent down. A business card. Sophie must have tucked it there after finding. In his jeans. He turned it over. Claire Whitmore. Executive Director, Whitmore Foundation. Marcus stared at the embossed lettering for several seconds. The woman at the corner had not mentioned any of it. No title. No foundation. No importance. Just Claire. His thumb moved across the edge of the card. Then he placed it carefully back inside his pocket. He did not call. Not yet. Marcus left Daniel's office at 5:12 with his job intact and a written warning folded inside his back pocket. Daniel had not been cruel about it. That almost made it worse. You are one of my most reliable people, he had said. Keep it that way. Marcus understood. Reliability paid rent. Good intentions did not. He changed into his old jacket, picked up his tool bag, and felt Claire's business card against his pocket as he walked toward the elevator. For 1 second, he considered calling. Not to ask for anything, not even to explain. Then the thought embarrassed him. He had helped a stranger cross one intersection. That did not create a debt. So he drove home, picked up Sophie from after-school care, bought poster board for $8.49, and spent the evening arguing with a 7-year-old about whether Saturn's rings could contain glitter. 2 mornings later, Claire stood at the same corner where she had first heard Marcus's voice. Natalie stood several feet away. "You know this is unusual," Natalie said. Claire smiled. "For me to stand on a sidewalk? For you to rearrange a donor breakfast so you can stand on this particular sidewalk? I moved the breakfast 20 minutes. For a man whose last name you do not know." Claire adjusted her grip on her cane. "You are becoming intrusive, Natalie. Occupational hazard." The crossing signal chirped. People moved around them. Claire listened carefully. Deep voices, high voices, quick shoes, slow shoes, a bicycle bell, a bus braking half a block away. None of them belonged to him. "Maybe he takes another route on Fridays," Natalie said. Claire hated that the suggestion disappointed her. "Maybe." She started forward when the signal changed. Natalie remained beside her without reaching out. That mattered. Claire noticed. Halfway across, she smiled faintly. Marcus had changed something without knowing it. Not just in her, in the people around her. They reached the opposite curb. "Coffee?" Natalie asked. Claire was about to answer when a familiar little voice rose above the morning noise. "Daddy, I told you the volcano is next month." Claire stopped. Then came the deeper voice she remembered. "And I told you I am preparing emotionally." Sophie laughed. Claire turned toward them. "Marcus?" His footsteps stopped. There was a beat of silence, followed by genuine surprise. "Claire." Sophie answered first. "You remember us." Claire smiled. "Your father explained a 4-inch curb to me with the seriousness of an air traffic controller. He is difficult to forget." Marcus laughed. "I was being specific." "Specific is useful," Claire replied. He recognized his own words and went quiet for half a second. Sophie looked between them. "Are you friends now?" "Sophie," Marcus said. "What?" Claire tilted her head toward the child. "We have met twice. I think friendship requires paperwork after the 3rd meeting." Sophie considered this seriously. "That sounds like grown-up stuff." "It usually is." Marcus looked at Claire. In daylight, he could see details he had missed before. Her platinum blonde hair was tied loosely behind her shoulders. She wore a cream-colored coat over a simple blue dress, and her cane moved with practiced confidence. No dark glasses today. Her bright blue eyes did not focus on his face, but there was nothing uncertain about the way she held herself. "You came back here?" he asked. Claire could have invented a reason. She did not. "I hoped I might hear your voice again." Marcus said nothing. The city seemed unusually loud around that silence. Sophie naturally rescued them from it. "Daddy needs coffee." Marcus looked down. "I do not need you managing my reputation. You always need coffee." Claire laughed. "There's a cafe 20 yards behind me. Let me buy both of you something." Marcus immediately shook his head. "You do not owe us anything." "I know." That answer stopped him. Claire continued, softer now. "That is why I am asking." Marcus studied her for a moment. No pressure, no performance, just a question. The same courtesy he had offered her. Sophie whispered, "They have hot chocolate." Marcus sighed. "I have lost control of this meeting." 5 minutes later, they sat near the cafe window. Sophie wrapped both hands around a cup of hot chocolate while Marcus drank black coffee. Claire had tea. For a while, they talked about nothing important. Sophie's science fair, Marcus's terrible artistic skills, Claire's dislike of cinnamon. Then Claire reached in her purse and placed something on the table. Not money, not a contract, a folded page covered in raised dots. Marcus looked at it. "Braille. A draft invitation," Claire said. "My foundation is rebuilding an accessibility program. This time, I want the people affected by it in the room before we make decisions." Marcus leaned back. "Why are you telling me?" Claire's fingers rested lightly on the page. "Because 2 days ago, you showed me the difference between helping someone and deciding for them." Marcus became still. Claire turned toward his voice. "I would like you to come listen." "As what?" "As Marcus." He looked at Sophie. She was carefully removing marshmallows from her drink one at a time. Then he looked back at Claire. For the first time since finding her business card, he wondered whether that brief morning encounter had been meant to end at the curb at all. Marcus did not answer immediately. He turned the folded Braille invitation over in his hands. though the raised dots meant nothing beneath his fingertips. Across the table, Claire waited without filling the silence. Sophie did not. You should go, Daddy. Marcus glanced at her. Nobody asked the committee. I'm the committee. Claire smiled into her tea. Marcus sighed. When is it? Monday. 6 in the evening. That made him pause. His shift ended at 5. Sophie's after-school program closed at 6:30. Life had a way of turning simple invitations into complicated math. Claire seemed to hear the hesitation. Sophie can come. Marcus looked at her carefully. This is not some publicity thing, is it? Claire's expression changed. No cameras. No cameras. No story about the helpful stranger. Marcus. Her voice softened. I'm asking because of what you understood, not because of what you did. That mattered. More than she knew. Monday evening, Marcus arrived at Whitmore Foundation headquarters wearing a clean navy button-down shirt, dark jeans, and the same old jacket. Sophie walked beside him carrying her science workbook. The lobby rose around them in marble, glass, and quiet money. Marcus recognized that kind of building. He spent his days repairing places like it. Usually, he entered through service doors. This time, Claire was waiting near the reception desk. Marcus, right here. Her smile appeared immediately. And Sophie. Present, Sophie announced. Claire laughed. Good. I was worried your committee chair might skip the meeting. Upstairs, 12 people sat around a long conference table. 3 were blind. 2 used mobility canes. One woman had brought a guide dog named Henry, which immediately became Sophie's primary interest. Claire opened the meeting with one sentence. Tonight, nobody speaks for somebody who is already in the room. Marcus watched her. The words sounded simple. They were not. For nearly an hour, he listened. A college student described crosswalk buttons placed too far from curb ramps. An older man explained how well-meaning strangers sometimes grabbed his shoulders without warning. A woman named Denise talked about office software that technically met accessibility standards but still took twice as long to navigate. Claire asked questions. Then she listened to the answers. No defensiveness. No polished executive language. Just attention. Marcus began to understand why she had invited him. Near the end, Eric Lawson entered carrying a folder. Claire, I have the preliminary communications concept. Claire frowned. I thought we agreed there was no campaign yet. Just an option. Eric opened the folder. Human interest performs well. We could anchor the launch around your experience last week. A working father stops to help a blind heiress. 2 worlds meeting unexpectedly. Very relatable. The room changed. Marcus became still. Claire's fingers tightened around her pen. Eric continued, unaware. We could photograph Marcus and Claire at the intersection. Maybe Sophie too. Family angle. Strong emotional value. Marcus closed the folder gently. No. Eric blinked. Excuse me. I said no. His voice stayed calm. Marcus, Claire began, but he shook his head slightly. Not at her. At the idea. I helped Claire because she wanted an arm. That moment belonged to her as much as it belonged to me. Eric shifted. We are not exploiting anyone. Marcus looked directly at him. Then you do not need to sell it. Silence settled across the table. Marcus continued. You want people to understand accessibility? Let the people sitting in this room tell you what they need. Do not turn Claire into the blind woman somebody rescued. Claire stopped breathing for half a second. Marcus looked toward her. I helped Claire. I am not interested in selling the blind woman. Nobody moved. Then Denise, seated near the end of the table, quietly said, Thank you. Claire lowered her head, and when she lifted it again, something in her face had changed. Gratitude, yes, but something deeper too. Respect without debt. Eric slowly closed his folder. Claire spoke with quiet certainty. There will be no reenactment. No hero campaign. We build this around the people who use the program. Marcus leaned back. Under the table, Sophie slipped her small hand into his. He looked down at her. She whispered, You did the asking thing again. Marcus smiled. Across the table, Claire heard her and smiled too. Before we continue, take a quick second to subscribe to Black Dad Destiny if you haven't already. If you love powerful family dramas, surprising stories, real-life inspired journeys, and stories with meaningful life lessons, you're in the right place. Your support helps us create a brand new cinematic story every single day. Claire said very little after the meeting ended. She thanked Denise, shook hands with the other participants, and asked Natalie to send everyone the revised schedule by morning. Eric left with his folder, closed beneath one arm, and considerably less confidence than when he had entered. Marcus helped Sophie pack her science workbook into her purple backpack. Ready, he asked. Henry likes me, Sophie said, watching the guide dog leave with his owner. Henry likes everyone. He likes me more. Marcus smiled. Naturally, Claire heard them from across the room. Something about their ordinary conversation made the conference table feel too large, too polished, too distant. Marcus. He turned. Yeah. Claire folded her cane and held it beside her. Would you and Sophie have dinner with me sometime? Marcus hesitated. Claire heard it immediately. Not a foundation dinner, she added. No board members. No cameras. No folders. Sophie looked up. Can there be pizza? Claire smiled. I think that can be negotiated. Marcus studied her for a moment. Saturday. But Saturday did not happen in one of Claire's private dining rooms. Marcus changed the plan after Sophie reminded him that her solar system still needed finishing before Friday's science fair. We can reschedule, Claire offered over the phone. Marcus looked at Jupiter drying beside the kitchen sink. Or you can come here, if you're comfortable with that. Claire was quiet for half a second. Send Natalie the address. When Claire arrived that evening, she came alone. No driver waiting downstairs. No assistant carrying anything. Just Claire in a simple cream sweater, dark slacks, and a light coat, holding a bakery box in one hand and her cane in the other. Marcus opened the apartment door. You found it. I had help from a rideshare driver and a very judgmental navigation application. From behind him, Sophie shouted, Did you bring pizza? Claire lifted the bakery box. Cupcakes. Sophie appeared instantly. You can stay. The apartment sounded different from Claire's home. Smaller, warmer. A washing machine hummed behind a closet door. A basketball game played quietly on the television. Something with garlic simmered on the stove. Marcus smelled faintly of black coffee and laundry detergent. Claire smiled at the familiarity of it. Come in, he said. Then he stopped himself. Would you like an arm? Claire's smile deepened. Not yet. Tell me the room. Marcus understood. 6 feet straight ahead. Couch on your left. Coffee table about 3 feet beyond it. Sophie's. School project has occupied most of the dining table and possibly established its own government. Daddy, am I wrong? No. Claire moved forward, cane tracing the floor. Sophie hurried toward her, then suddenly stopped. Marcus noticed. Claire did too. Claire. Sophie asked. Yes. Can I take your hand and show you Saturn? Silence. A small one, but it carried the entire distance from that first morning to this room. Claire swallowed. Yes, Sophie. You can. Sophie placed her hand gently beneath Claire's fingers and led her toward the table. There's a chair right here. Thank you. Saturn is kind of crooked. Marcus protested from the kitchen. Saturn has character. Claire laughed. Sophie guided Claire's fingertips toward the model without placing them directly on it. The rings start about 2 inches in front of your hand. Claire reached forward and touched the rough cardboard edge. Glitter clung lightly to her fingertips. It is beautiful. You cannot see it, Sophie said, then immediately sounded worried. I did not mean. Claire smiled. Beauty is not limited to sight. Sophie became quiet. What does it look like to you? Claire ran one finger carefully along the ring. It feels like somebody worked very hard and used too much glue. Sophie burst out laughing. Marcus leaned against the kitchen counter, watching them. He had seen Claire in an elegant coat at a busy intersection and commanding a conference room filled with professionals. Here, sitting beneath the warm yellow light of his small apartment with glitter on her fingers, she seemed different. Not weaker, not less powerful, just less guarded. Later, they ate spaghetti because Marcus had forgotten to order pizza. Claire did not complain. Sophie told embarrassing stories about her father. Marcus corrected half of them and denied the rest. Nobody discussed money. Nobody discussed foundations. For nearly an hour, Claire's phone remained silent inside her purse because she had turned it off before coming upstairs. After dinner, Sophie fell asleep on the couch with her science book open against her chest. Marcus gently covered her with a faded blanket. Claire listened from the table. "She watches everything you do," she said. Marcus adjusted the blanket. "That is the terrifying part of parenting," she asked before touching me. Marcus looked toward Claire. "Yeah, you taught her that." He shook his head slightly. "I try to teach her that people belong to themselves." Claire became still. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere upstairs, someone moved a chair across the floor. Ordinary sounds. Safe sounds. Claire rested her hands around a warm coffee mug. "People spend a lot of time trying to make my life easier," she said softly. "Sometimes they forget to let it still be mine." Marcus sat across from her. He did not offer advice. He did not tell her he understood something he could not fully understand. He simply stayed there. Claire noticed that too. In a life crowded with people eager to fix, manage, protect, and speak for her, Marcus Reed had somehow become the first person in a long time who seemed comfortable doing nothing but being present. 3 weeks later, the intersection sounded exactly the same. Engines idled beneath the morning light. A city bus released a long mechanical sigh near the curb. Shoes moved quickly across concrete, while the pedestrian signal chirped above the noise. But Claire was different. So was Marcus. The Whitmore Foundation had rebuilt its accessibility initiative from the ground up. Denise and the other blind participants were no longer invited to review finished ideas. They helped create them. Crosswalk access, workplace technology, transportation, public buildings. The conversation started with the people who actually used the systems. Eric's campaign folder disappeared. No style photographs. No hero story. No blind woman turned into somebody else's lesson. Claire had insisted on that. Marcus had noticed. He had also noticed something quieter. Claire had started calling sometimes without needing a reason. Sophie had started asking whether Claire was coming over whenever Marcus made spaghetti. And Claire, who once returned each evening to an apartment filled with expensive silence, had somehow memorized the sounds of Marcus's home. The washing machine. Sophie's laughter. Marcus grinding coffee too early on. Saturday mornings. None of them had named what was growing between them. They did not need to. Not yet. That Tuesday morning, the three of them stood together at the familiar curb. Sophie wore her purple backpack and held a blue ribbon from a science fair. Her solar system had won second place. Marcus still claimed Saturn's crooked rings deserved first. "You are biased," Claire said. "I prefer supportive." "You use too much glue," Sophie reminded him. Marcus looked wounded. "I'm being attacked before 8 in the morning." Claire laughed. That laugh had become easier now, warmer. The pedestrian signal began chirping. Marcus automatically moved beside her and offered his elbow, the same simple gesture he had made weeks earlier. Claire heard the movement of his jacket. She smiled. "This time I know the way." Marcus paused. Then he lowered his arm. "No disappointment. No embarrassment. Just understanding. Then you lead." Claire stepped forward. Her cane swept across the pavement in a steady rhythm. Sophie walked near her left side. Marcus stayed on her right, close enough to be present and far enough to leave the choice where it belonged. Halfway across, Sophie spoke. "Claire, yes. Are we still friends if we do not need paperwork anymore?" Claire laughed. "I think we passed the paperwork stage." "Good." Sophie thought for a moment. "Because Daddy likes you." Marcus nearly missed a step. "Sophie, what?" "You do." Claire kept walking, but her smile changed. Marcus rubbed a hand across his beard. "We are going to have a conversation about privacy. You told me people belong to themselves. That is not helping your case." Claire laughed again, and Marcus finally joined her. They reached the opposite curb. Claire found the edge with her cane and stepped up without hesitation. Then she stopped. "Marcus, right here." 2 words. Ordinary words. Yet something in Claire's expression softened. Weeks ago, she had known him only as a calm voice in a noisy city. Now she knew the father who stayed up painting planets after a full shift. The man who accepted consequences without turning kindness into an excuse. The man who could sit beside silence without trying to repair it. "Coffee?" she asked. Marcus checked his watch. "We have 12 minutes. Sophie groaned. "That means no." Marcus looked at Claire. "It means we walk fast." Claire smiled and started toward the cafe. This time, she went first. Sophie hurried after her. Marcus followed, black coffee already on his mind. Nothing dramatic had happened. No grand rescue. No imposible miracle. One man had simply stopped. One woman had been allowed to choose. One child had been watching. And somewhere between a curb, a conference room, a crooked model of Saturn, and a quiet kitchen table, 3 lives had learned the same small truth. Kindness did not have to take control to change a life. Sometimes it only had to notice. Sometimes it only had to ask. Marcus never raised his voice. He never asked to be called a hero. He simply made room for Claire to move through the world as herself. And in return, she made room for him and Sophie in a life that had once felt too quiet. Kindness had not arrived like a revolution. It had arrived like an offered arm, waiting patiently for permission. Every story leaves us with a question. What would you have done if you were in their place? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoy touching stories, inspiring life journeys, emotional family dramas, and unforgettable love stories, don't forget to like, subscribe to Black Dad Destiny, and turn on notifications. A brand new cinematic story is waiting for you tomorrow.